Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Jay the Reader, and today we're talking about a Goosebumps book. I'm super excited to talk about this. Let's get into it. Before we get into the book, I felt this would be fitting because, well, we're getting into September, but this is Lumpy the Pumpkin. We love Lumpy. Yeah, I picked him up today from Home Depot, and I love him for what he is. He is my child. But I also thought it was fitting because today we are talking about a very specific book, and the cover kind of has some pumpkin-y themes to it. So yeah, I think it'll be a perfect addition to the videos. We'll just set him right back there. He'll be chilling during the videos. That is the perfect spot for him. Yeah, so Lumpy, you're just gonna be chilling back there.
Wait a second, who are you calling Lumpy?
I'm calling you Lumpy. You're Lumpy.
Well, take a look at yourself, big boy.
Oh, whatever. He's a mouthy little guy. But without further ado, today we're talking about The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. It's a Goosebumps book by R.L. Stine. The reason I said this was a good addition, especially for this video, was because in this artwork, on this printing, the Scarecrow has a pumpkin head. In the original printing, I don't believe the Scarecrow does. I know for a fact that he doesn't, but this is the revamped artwork. I don't have the original artwork print yet of this. I want to get it. But yeah, let's get into this. So this book follows Jody and Mark. Jody is the main character. They are siblings, and it follows them going to their grandparents' farm. They go there every year, and they're going this year, but when they get there, they notice some things are a little off. Like the grandparents are acting weird. There's a farmhand, and he's dopey, but he's acting a little different. And just, they notice that the whole vibe of the farm is off. And things get progressively weird when they see the scarecrows. Just a warning, there's gonna be spoilers in this video if you've never read this book, so just letting you know, this video is pretty much full of spoilers. But I don't really care about that because this book came out in the 90s. So if you care about that, I would say maybe click off. But if you want to stick around, I'd really appreciate it. Or if you read this book and you just want to refresh, that's great. So like I said, when they get to the farm, they notice all these scarecrows, and they are different than the usual scarecrows that are on their grandparents' farm every year. And they, Jody is very freaked out by these scarecrows. She thinks they're very menacing. And Mark doesn't think anything of it really at first, but it gets progressively more and more intense. Like, they notice the scarecrows are off, they have a weird vibe to the scarecrows, and then they notice that the grandparents are off, and they're not doing the normal grandparent-y things they usually do like they did the year prior. They seem more on edge, more, what's the word, snippy, like just very irritable. And they're not doing the normal, like, grandparenty things. Like I said, they're not making the breakfasts they're used to making. The grandfather used to tell them scary stories at night, and he's not doing that now. And Jody's like, what is going on with these scarecrows? And my grandparents, like, there seems to be a correlation. And then one night she sees the scarecrows, like, it seems like they're moving, like twitching out in the fields, and she tells her grandparents the next morning, they're like, oh, it's just the wind. But the farmhand's acting a little fishy about the whole thing. He's really kind of quiet, but Jody knows something's up, and then they go fishing, and she sees a scarecrow follow them into the woods, and it just gets more and more intense. And then she realizes, yo, these scarecrows are alive, and they're just kind of a general menace. I don't think they're really threatening. I didn't find them to be very threatening in this book, but they're definitely annoying and a menace and creepy, that's for sure. I forgot to mention the farmhand has a son named Stick. And Stick is a kind of a jerk, but his character does develop through the story, and he kind of becomes a integral part of it. He realizes that something's up. And oh, I forgot to mention, the farmhand has a book, like a superstition book, and he thinks the scarecrows are alive the whole time. Like, he's convinced of it. He keeps saying the Scarecrow walks at midnight, the Scarecrow walks at midnight. And it turns out, this is the biggest spoiler in this video, he was the one that brought the scarecrows to life because he hated the way he was being treated on the farm. And didn't seem like he was being treated that bad, but apparently got made fun of or whatever. He brought him to life to kind of keep the grandparents and maybe even his son in line. That's how they came to life. They kind of put a spell on them, and he brought the scarecrows to life, but they end up being a menace. I will say this story builds to a pretty cool crescendo. At the end, they're kind of facing off with the scarecrows, and I think, yeah, they light them on fire. That's what they do. I mean, that's a pretty cliche way to end off them, but they light them on fire. And yeah, that's pretty much this whole story. Like, some cool scenes with scarecrows being alive, and that's it. Not my favorite Goosebumps book. Before we get into the things that I don't like about this book, let's get into the things that I did like about this book. I like Jody. She was smart. For what it's worth, she was pretty smart. Mark also, her brother, kind of started clicking with him a bit. Stick, the farmhand's son, he was pretty smart. No one was really that dumb in this book, and that was kind of cool. The farm setting was also nice. I liked the farm aesthetic. R.L. Stine fleshed it out very well. It felt like you were on the farm with them. You felt like you were going fishing with them, riding horses with them. It felt like you were with them on the farm, and that was a really cool touch. I liked that a lot. That's all I can really say that I think is good about this book. I do not think this book is R.L. Stine's best work. I don't. I really did not feel satisfied at the end of this book. Now let's get into the things I don't like. And I usually say take this with a grain of salt because I know this is a children's book and I'm not the demographic. I think this is weak even for a children's book. This book was weak. Weak. I didn't think the scarecrows were menacing. Like, I talked about Horrorland on my first video, and that book had some actual like violence in it, and it was creepy and scary. This book did not scare me once. I did not think anything about this book was scary, and I know some other R.L. Stine books, even for children in the Goosebumps line, are freaking pretty scary. And I can think of a couple off the top of my head. Werewolf Fever Swamp, Walking the Dead House. Those books are scary, even for some adults. They have scary moments. This book did not. I do not like the reasoning why the scarecrows are alive. I do not like that it was just some farmhand that was getting a little tired of the jokes that were being made about him, so he brought the scarecrows to life to, I guess, keep people in line? I don't know. There was nothing scary about it. The scarecrows really didn't seem to be that much of a threat. They just kind of walked around and scared you. I mean, yeah, a horde of them came at them at the end, but they didn't really hurt anyone. Like, there was no threat. There was no perceived threat. And they easily killed them with fire. They even dressed the little brother up as a scarecrow. And they started doing Simon Says. Like, the brother wouldn't do an action, the scarecrows would do an action because they thought they were one of them. This book was stupid. And if this is your favorite book by R.L. Stine, or a favorite Goosebumps book, I am sorry. Like, I just really did not like this book. And there's specific, and I'm really let down by this book even more after I read another book recently. Let me grab it real quick. This book is in the Creeper series by Edgar J. Hyde. It's called The Scarecrow. This scarecrow is actually scary. This scarecrow is actually menacing. This scarecrow actually rips people's tongues out. This scarecrow is actually a threat. This book is 10 times better, and I got this for $1.25 at the dollar store. This is like considered a Goosebumps knockoff, a dollar store Goosebumps knockoff at that. And this book ran laps around Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. This is a good scarecrow-themed middle grade horror book, and that just, after I read this, it made me so disappointed in this book. This book is just so much better, and this book really let me down, sadly. Let's get into my rankings. Fun ranking out of 5. I'm gonna have to give this book a 2.5. I didn't think the book was that fun. Like I said, it is atmospheric, but it kind of felt like they were doing the same thing over and over again. So I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5 on the fun ranking. On the scare ranking, I'm gonna have to give it a 1.5. Maybe a little creepy to some really little kids, but this book is not scary at all. 1.5 out of 5. I have nothing else to say about it. That's the ranking I'm giving it. And then my overall ranking, I'm gonna give it a 2.5 out of 5. I don't think this book was that good. I mean, if you're a Goosebumps completionist, yes, read it, but if you're just reading them just to read them and you see this out there in the wild and say, hey, maybe I should pick this one up and give it a read, I'd advise against it. There's way better ones out there. That's just my opinion. But yeah, 2.5 out of 5 on the overall ranking. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry it was I went pretty hard on the book, but I had to just give my honest opinion. If you enjoyed this video, if you could like and subscribe, it costs you nothing and it helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it. God bless you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.